Welcome. Our special guest this evening is the recently elected Congressman from the 8th District here in New Jersey, William Pascrell. Bill, welcome on.
Tom, glad to be here.
Bill, I'd like to start off quickly. I think most of the folks out there know who you are and your background. First of all, what committees have you been assigned to in Congress?
They were just finalized last week. In the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee, I will be on surface transportation, which is critical for the state of New Jersey. It is what is known as ICE-T, the intermodal transportation, which brings in all surface transportation modals together so that we can have a comprehensive network. And this is true throughout the entire nation. This committee will decide the reauthorization of transportation money for the entire United States, and that's why it's been quite a battleground already in the first 2.5 months of the Congress, the 105th Congress. I'm also on the Water, Resources, and Environmental Committee, which will deal with the reauthorization of Superfund, the Clean Water Act, and finally, small business. I'm a member of the Small Business Committee. It's an exciting committee. It's a bipartisan committee attempting to make things a lot easier for small businesses in America. In New Jersey, that small business comprises over 95% of all the jobs in the state, so I don't have to tell you how important that is. I also serve on the ad hoc committee, task force, on campaign finance reform. There are 5 Democrats, 5 Republicans. I'm one of the Democrats, and that should be an exciting committee. A little controversial.
Well, a little controversial right now, anyway.
Yes.
Well, I think for the long range, though, the Transportation Committee seems to be very important. Is the transportation budget going to be larger? Are we going to expand our highway system and the rail system here in the United States?
I think the President has put forth in his budget a very strong intermodal program for transportation. The question is, will it affect New Jersey's formula and the dollars that we anticipate so that we can complete the projects started and begin the projects already on the drawing board? That's the question. We're looking at those dollars right now. New Jersey Congress people, all 15 of us, all 13 of us, are committed to making sure New Jersey gets its share of what the federal dollars that we do send down. Tom, this is the only place in the federal budget where New Jerseyans can say, I got more from my tax dollar than I sent down. The only place. You know, we ranked 49th in the entire country in the return of tax dollars to our citizens. This is wrong, and I'm going to try to do the best that I can to change it.
Well, this is principally, I guess, because of New Jersey's location.
That's correct.
It's really the center of the universe here on the East Coast.
Sure is.
And my question to you is, what kind of emphasis is it going to be? Is it going to be public transportation? Are we going for roads, or do we have is there a long-range plan?
All of the above. What we're attempting to do is get people to work faster. What we're attempting to do to get people to the malls faster and with less congestion. And the only way you can do this, Tom, is that all of these modes of transportation are working with each other, are connected in some way. So there will be hubs, there will be spokes to the wheel, but the fact is we need to move people around to the best of our ability. I'm one very strongly in favor of mass transportation rather than just simply widening and widening roads and we putting more and more cars on it. You know, that's necessary. I mean, people need to get to the shore. They're not going to get there by helicopter. They're going to go to the parkway. But there's a lot of dollars that we need, if we're going to spend tax dollars, and we need to listen to the public as to what they think is important. And that's the trains, it's the buses that get them to work in the morning so that they don't have to use their car to not only congest the roads that already were built back in the 30s or 40s perhaps, but to preserve the environment.
One exception to that, Route 21.
Yes, sir.
Give us the latest on that.
Well, I wish I could tell you that it was finished yesterday. People in Clifton and Passaic, and then some in Patterson.
And Nutley and Belleville.
and Nutley and Belleville, even though it's on the Passaic County side of the road, but it's on the Essex side of the road, river as well, Passaic River. Waited 31 years for this road. They've been told it's going to be finished, it's around the corner. which prompted me to go back into the records because, the records are the records, and we're talking about the official records. And in 1991, when the former congressman from our district, Bob Rowe, who was the chairman, at that time it was called Public Works, now
Right.
it's called Transportation and Infrastructure. Bob Rowe laid it out clearly on the table, had $93 million authorized to complement the 41 that had been produced in the early 80s, in the 80s. This supposedly was to be enough to finish Route 21. When I'm going through my records, I find that he even wrote this in his notes. He gave me his notes. We've been hoodwinked to a large degree. Whether that money went to some other projects or not, I haven't been able to tell. I just received a written letter from the Commissioner of Transportation, who was just confirmed within the last 10 days, who assured me that this project, the money will be there, and we should be on target to complete it by the year 2001, 2002, the latest. I'm convinced that this road, now that we got people's interest and piqued people's interest, is going to be built, is going to be completed, and the missing links from Ackerman Avenue down to Dayton will be finished. I'm convinced of that.
This is going to bring the whole district together.
Absolutely,
finally.
absolutely. It's been too long.
Right.
The road that goes nowhere.
There are a couple of things I'd like to discuss with you before we go on to your other assignments.
Sure.
Your general philosophy on what it is to be a congressman. How do you feel about it now that you're in the office a couple of months?
I love the job. I want to represent all the people of my district. I said that to you during the campaign.
Right.
This is my background, trying to get people to work with each other. And it may be a cliche, but I'll say it anyway. There's no Democrat or Republican way to clean the streets in front of this building. I'm very proud to be a Democrat, as I am proud of my heritage as an Italian American. But I want to work with people from all over the country to make this a better country. I mean, this is the legacy I want to leave to my kids. And I did not go down there as an ideologue. I don't go to Washington every day, nor do I wake up and walk 2 blocks over to the Longworth, where my office is, and another block or so to the Capitol. I'm not thinking of ways that I can make true believers out of this nation. I want to do what's best for the country. I want to try to improve the quality of life in my district, and I want to listen to the people who live in my district.
There's one thing that we'll catch after the break. That's the new Democratic coalition that you're obviously a leading member of. We'll be right back. We're back with Bill Pascrell. Bill, the new Democratic coalition, you were going to explain it to me.
Yes, we're up to 35 Democrats have joined the coalition. We started out with 25, we're up to 35. And we have a large freshman class of about 42 Democrats. And we've got a good 15 of them that joined us. So we've got a good percentage of freshmen that have joined what is very basically the centrist group within the Democratic Party, moderation. We've put together a centrist budget. You will find a diversity of opinion, but the thing is to get our party back towards the traditional central values that have made the Democratic Party the party that it is, the party of working families, rather than move to the extremes which our party has moved to at times in the past 30 years. So it's good to be for civil rights. It's important. It's critical. It's good to be libertarian in terms of value, but on the same time, the strength of our party is in the center at working families.
2 words: common sense.
Common sense.
I've seen that in your blurbs
Yes.
on this, and I think that's really what you're driving at. You add a certain maturity, if you will, to this whole mix that we like to see. At least I personally like to see in politicians.
I think that's critical. I think my votes, even in a short period of time, will indicate that you can't put me in a corner or label me or hang a label on me. One of the things that I really dislike is labeling in politics. And sometimes it fits. But I think if you followed my voting pattern, you'll see for the most part I'm going to vote with my party because that's my philosophy. But you'll see many times on critical issues I do not vote with my party because sometimes party asks too much. And if you're not willing to do that, then you're not really you're not reflecting the will of the people in your district. You're going down there to put into a law the ideological dictates of your leadership.
Well, let me say this. I did notice for a congressman of less than 3 months, twice you've gone against the majority in your party. The first issue, I guess, was the Mexican affair. Maybe you could just enlighten us on that.
Yes, I believe that we've had more than enough patience with Mexico. I believe we do live in a global economy, and we'd be foolish not to trade with certainly our border countries, as well as countries across the sea. That doesn't mean we need to be duped. That doesn't mean we need to be shills. This does not mean that we need to, to capitulate to those, even though they're south of our borders. And I believe the Mexican government could be doing much more in terms of preventing drugs coming into this country. 75% of the cocaine that's coming into America is coming through Mexico. I mean,
Now, that's a dramatic change, by the way.
It's about an increase of about 40 or 50%.
Right, in the past 2 or 3 years, is it?
It's about 4 or 5 years, about
Okay,
5 years,
5 years.
I'd say, the numbers that I've looked at. That's not acceptable.
No.
I believe the President Ernesto Zedillo, is trying to do a good job.
Who's that again?
Zedillo.
Zedillo. The only one I ever see in the newspaper is Salinas.
Well, because everybody in his family is being arrested.
Exactly.
And we, not that we think that's a joke, but the fact of the matter is they had some scoundrels in that government, which made it bad for everybody else.
President Zedillo.
Zedillo, he's doing a good job.
Okay.
But I still think we should have decertified. That's why I voted for decertification, because I don't believe the Mexican government is doing most that it can. And we did that, as you know, with Colombia, the Colombia government. And I praise the president for that. We should have done the same thing with Mexico.
Well, Colombia it's showing some results too, as I understand it.
Well, it is. It is. So we got to be tough.
Next issue, the late-term abortion vote. Again, that was not a popular vote with the Democrats, from what I gather. Do you have any a quick aside for that or comment?
I did what I felt I had to do in conscience. I believe that those decisions are best left to a woman and her doctor. Mm-hmm. Who am I to make those decisions for a woman? But there is a point beyond which I would not go. I said this during the campaign, and this is the point. So this partial abortion issue did crystallize. I support a ban on those partial abortions, and I did it out of conscience. And I believe that people who voted against the ban that I talked to voted in conscience too. I respect their vote. I hope they'll respect mine.
Okay. As we go forward on, and I want to leave the Democratic coalition after one comment. It seems to me that before the election, and perhaps even now, you still seem to be a strong advocate of the working man. And I'd like to have your reinforcement of that, if you will.
Working families are critical to the movement. I mean, Tom, let me give you an example. We debated the issue of welfare the last few years in this country and in this state. I was a bipartisan writer of New Jersey's welfare reform. We were very proud of that in 1992. We took a lot of flack for it. There were those a little bit to the left who felt that we were being too strong. There were those on the right who wanted to throw everything out the window. We don't need welfare, which is totally idiotic. There are people who are in need and cannot help themselves. We felt we struck a good balance of tough love in order to get mom and dad back together again. This is the whole purpose of welfare reform, and because it's a very small portion of the federal budget, believe it or not. I'm talking about getting moms and dads to live with each other so they bring up their children. We've got too much of people bringing kids into this world and having grandmothers in the state take care of those kids. This is wrong. Right. One might even question the ethics of it. I think that this is important. So what you do is try to move towards a balance or a common sense response to these things. I feel very strongly about this. I think it's very, very important. And my record is my record. You'll find it to be pretty consistent.
Another thing that I'd like to discuss with you is your district, the makeup of your district. It seems to me that nearly all of the national and international issues are reflected in your district. Am I right or wrong? Or
Whether you're talking about our initiative, I'm also on the educational task force within the Democratic Party.
Small business?
This is a small business. It's there. Crime prevention, more cops on the street. All towns need that to help relieve us of property taxes in the state of New Jersey. There isn't an issue, as you said, transportation. There isn't an issue that we're dealing with except for the pure agricultural issues. I mean, clean water, clean air, these are all impacting on our district.
You told me there's 1 or 2 farms somewhere in the district.
There sure as hell is. They're there.
So, but the real key is your constituents, if they have a problem in any of these areas, I guess it's your offices where they're going to call. You're their representative. Am I correct?
Yes, we now have our main office is in the Federal Building in Paterson, New Jersey, which is a very safe area. 200 Federal Plaza around it's a brand new building.
Right.
We have an office in Passaic. We have one in Bloomfield, and we are going to have one in West Orange, so that we reach out to all the people to help working families. I went through the district door to door. I know what working families are thinking about and are talking about, and I know there's a lot of security about their jobs, and perhaps we can talk about that when we come back.
We'll get right back to that. Now, I'd like to discuss further about constituent services.
Yes.
And as we said before, your district is made up of nearly all of the issues that are affected in the United States. How do you service these people, and how can you have some sort of an effect on issues if you're not on the committees?
In many ways, it's more important to make sure that your district is functioning and that your district offices are available to people. That's critical. I mean, this job is not Washington. This job is in the 8th Congressional District.
Let me interrupt you one moment here.
Sure.
Everyone, get yourself a pencil and paper. We're going to give out the telephone numbers and the contact people and things at the end of this program for the congressman here.
Thank you very much.
I'm sorry.
It's important, and we've got mobile offices going out to all 21 towns. We have requested in all the 21 towns to the council and to the mayors, we'd like to set up shop an hour before each council meeting, maybe on a monthly basis, to come. If anybody has any problems, let's hear them, so you don't have to go to the congressional districts' offices. Now, as I said, we have 3 offices, and the 4th one is about to be opening within another month.
Some of the things that you cover in these offices. Give me an idea.
Anywhere
what's
from Medicare problems, health problems, veteran situations that
Immigration?
occur. Immigration is a big issue. The Social Security is another big issue. So the whole spectrum of things that people can have problems with, and many times don't know who to turn to, don't know even what their benefits or their rights are, should be able to reach out to the congressman and get an answer and not feel like you're burdening the office. There are no burdening calls that we get. This is our job.
You're the ombudsman, effectively.
That's what I want to be.
Okay.
That's what I want to be.
Let's go into some of the issues then that we've kind of touched upon, but we really haven't zeroed in on. Crime. What can be done at the federal level, and what are you doing to
Well,
help?
I think that the program of putting 100,000 more cops on the street is a very critical problem, because those cops are not simply responding to the criminal situations, they're interacting with neighborhoods. In Paterson, where I was the mayor, we reduced crime more than any other town in the state over a 6-year period, 36%. It wasn't because of any specialty that the mayor had. It was the community saying enough already, working with the police department through community policing. So I believe that's a critical issue. Whether you live in a small town or a large town, you need that interaction between the community and the police officers. They put their lives on the line every day, male and female, and we need to recognize how important they are to the total community, not just to be there when a situation occurs, if the unfortunate situation does occur, but to be in the community when there isn't crime. crime happening. To be there, to comfort those, to reach out to those, to get back to proper departments within your town when there is a problem other than a crime being committed.
Well, the cops used to be 24 hours a day, effectively.
Absolutely.
If one lived in your neighborhood, he was the one to see.
And when they were on the beat, people felt a lot more comfortable. So you can have statistics showing that crime is going down, but if the people don't see or the visibility of the police are evident, they got to feel it.
They have to feel it.
That's correct.
The one thing that you have initiated was there's some sort of a task force or an advisory board of police chiefs in your area?
Yes, we've instituted quite a few task forces within and advisory committees within the congressional office. From public safety issues, as you've just mentioned, to labor issues, to science and technology issues, to transportation issues. Very important. Of course, we also have a panel of those people who will review applications to the military academies, and they will be representative of all 21 towns in my district.
That's great.
It's very important.
We're going to come back in a moment, and we'll finish up with the congressman. Welcome back. Bill, I know you have a strong background in education, and what can and are you doing toward the goals in Washington?
I'm serving on the task force on education. It's very important. We're going to look at new initiatives and find a way to pay for them rather than raising any taxes, which I think is important, which we ought to do in New Jersey as well. Mm-hmm. I think this is important. Education is the axis of the wheel. Every issue, be it the environment, be it job creation, be it job security, be it the transportation issues, preventing crime, preventing health problems, all comes back to education. This is our way out. This is our ticket. So equal opportunity is important, no question about it. Standards, credibility, no nonsense education.
Standards.
You cannot survive in the 21st century in terms of making a living unless you're going to have some education. Even those jobs which we might have considered menial 15, 20 years ago will necessitate some skills and some training and some education. That's where we should be concentrating on.
Well, it seems to me that technology is really going to be very, very important.
Absolutely.
Now, whether you have a master's degree or a college degree, you really have to know how to use the various gadgets, as my generation would call it. But today, a youngster can talk to someone in Italy or any place. Right.
Any place.
Right.
This is great.
Which is marvelous.
These are good times.
It's a global village.
Absolutely. These are good times, and we should convey that and communicate that to our children rather than sometimes we communicate, oh, we can only get back the way it was 30 years ago. It's not going to be the way it was 30 years ago. Let's try to make what we are better. 30
years hence is where we should be looking.
That's correct. That's correct. And you're going to need an education to have a job.
Absolutely. And rather than, it seems to me that we've gone too much celebrity conscious in this country. And the celebrities are not exactly the people that
They're not role models many times.
It's not a good role model. That's a good way of putting it.
That's right. That's right.
I think that's about it for tonight. Bill, it's been a pleasure. You're
enjoyed
invited back. We'll see you in a couple
of months.
Appreciate
all right?
That. Nice seeing you again.
Thanks, Tom.
And now we're going to see the addresses and telephone numbers.